doing a little extra, being prepared, and having a strong work ethic, right? And I think we all know that we're capable of all those things, but it's just sometimes, it's that curiosity, it's the relationship building, that's where the talent comes in, right? My name is Todd Crawford, and I'll be the moderator of our little fireside chat with Joey and John today. Before, I just want to kind of set the stage with some opening remarks, and this is about, furthering your career in this industry. And, I've been fortunate enough to be part of the founding teams of two successful startups, obviously Impact.com, the most recent one, 15 years going strong. So it's not a get-rich-quick entrepreneur process here. We're in it to win it, and as you've seen in our roadmap and a lot of the stuff that we're doing, we're really trying to grow the industry. And it's really rewarding to come up with an idea, a solution, and see other companies grow their businesses with that or expand the industry. But the really, to me, and I say this all the time, the most rewarding part of starting a company is getting to employ people. Because no matter how great your idea is, no matter how smart the founding team is, we can't do it without a lot of people really helping push this big rock up the hill. And I've been fortunate for 25 years to be in this industry, and I've literally had someone waiting on me at a table at lunch and see the swag and go, my roommate just got a job with you guys and loves it. I would love to work there. And we tell them, go apply. And 10 years later, they're a senior executive at a company, or they go on to start their own company. And it's so rewarding, to give people their first real job. And I'm sure many of you, this is your first real job. And or you remember back to your first real job, or just to be another, milestone or stepping stone in someone's career path. It's just so rewarding. And there's so much opportunity in this industry right now. It's so hot. It's getting so much attention because we've kind of rebranded it. We've taken it from a more narrow affiliate focus. We've expanded it into partnerships. We're now bridging into influencers with our creator solution and really evangelizing that. We've been seeing companies kind of either consolidate or coordinate with the influencer teams. So there's a lot of things moving, and that all just means more opportunity for all of us. And, at Impact.com, we employ 1,000 people worldwide. And I can remember back when we hit 100 and thinking, I just can't believe you start a company and suddenly have 100 people working for you. And I know many of you work at companies that have far more than 1,000 people. I know John was at eBay, and it's just, it's tens of thousands of people. You can't even imagine what they all do when you go to the website and look at it. But once you really realize that there's a lot of work being done. And the other thing I think is really interesting is in January of this year in the Wall Street Journal, there was an article written saying that the most sought after CMOs have performance marketing experience. I mean, who could imagine this 25 or even 10 years ago, that people understand, and I think this will come out in our conversation, what we do is far more complex than buying programmatic, buying keywords, doing PR. Nothing against it. I'm just saying it's a pretty complex ecosystem that we're managing. And so it's exciting that, we're all here getting to network. And the one thing I think, I know John's done it because I've seen his LinkedIn, is just keeping track of your work. Like when you start a new position, you should kind of look at the baseline and then try to take time to jot down, hey, we had this many affiliates, this many were active, this many were productive, this was the kind of diversity of the program, and after a year, here's what's changed. There's a lot of KPIs that maybe you're measured, but there's maybe ones that you should still be measuring for your own personal. But more importantly about what you did, it's about how you did it. And when you're interviewed, you're looking for a promotion, you're looking to get an annual review, get a new role within the same company or a different company, that's really what employers want to learn about. And it sometimes can get lost you've been doing something for 2 years and people aren't comfortable talking about themselves, but these two are. And that's why I've got them up here. So John, Joey, it's so awesome to have you guys here. And I think just to kind of kick it off so everybody kind of knows who you are, I mean, we had a little thing there showing your names and where you work today, but I mean, you could just give us like where you work now, what you do, and maybe just a little bit of how did you even get into this industry? You want to start?
Yeah, thanks for having us. I work at Affirm today, which is the leading buy now, pay later solution in the United States. Been at Affirm for about 6 months, and actually found myself at Affirm through a common person that I had known from prior lives, which is a really common thread through my career. My first role in partnership space was, dare I say, in 2002. Working for Blue Nile, which at the time sold diamonds. Now they sell lots of other kinds of jewelry online. And I didn't really know that much about the space at all. I had worked for a startup before that I realized afterwards was kind of a loyalty shopping site. But nobody knew that at that point, what it was or how it worked. So I kind of stumbled in, and then what you said really resonated with me of so much of what you do and how you do it. And the people I know in this room and in other rooms, it's not because we just like each other, it's because we have done business over those years and we learn to trust each other, and you learn who's a good person, who keeps their word, who can I count on, and that means everything. Like this room and that room, people will chew you up and spit you out if you do not bring your real, authentic, honest self. So that's how I got here and how I keep staying here, apparently.
So you went to Blue Nile, then?
Yep. Then I did that for like 1.5 years, 2 years, and one of my affiliates actually came to me and said, would you come run my business? And at that point, it was a bootstrap startup of 10 people who were managing an online shopping mall for American Airlines. And that whole business has gone through various stages of different companies. But yeah, Mitch Merrill, who passed away a few years ago, basically said, I don't know how this works, I need some help, and just run this business like it's your own. And it was just life-changing for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you went to eBay, is that?
Yeah, so then actually, after about 7.5 years, I knew I needed to find something else, and I'd reached out to lots of people who I'd had relationships with, and one of those people was Brian Marcus, who now is here at Impact. Yep. Big ups for Brian Marcus.
Right over there.
Yep. And I said, Brian, I'm just looking for something, and I ran into him again at a conference, and he's like, yeah, I think you said you had a sticky note on your computer with my name on it for like 1.5 years. And then Brian called me one day and he said, hey, I am moving to Seattle to work for eBay and I don't know anybody in Seattle. Would you come work with me? And I said, well, yeah. And so that led to 8.5 years at eBay. And then that ended. And again, through a relationship, I ended up at Opera Software, which is based in Europe. That was a very interesting 1.5 years. That ended. And then Kyle Schumacher, who's not actually here, but Kyle has been in the industry for about 10 years and started with WikiBuy, which is now Capital One Shopping. I know there's a lot of folks here that know Kyle. And I talked to Kyle and he said, look, like we need somebody at Affirm. I think you'd be perfect. And now I'm at Affirm.
You're back in.
I'm back.
Snuck out of the industry for a hot minute.
It pulls you right back in.
Right.
In a good way.
Yeah, no. Joey?
Well, I love the points on networking because I think, that's also how I've been able to achieve and grow my career, including my current role. So right now, I am a manager of client partnerships at Team Bespoke. And in that role, I do exactly what it sounds like. I manage our clients and grow our partnerships and make sure that they're receiving the best service possible. And we do that through a lot of exciting ways, and very much to your point on affiliate has now become partnerships. We have taken kind of that traditional model and expanded it into content commerce and these PR pieces and influencers. And so growing and changing in that space has has been really exciting because it's new and it's on the forefront, and we wear so many different hats that when I go back to where I started, I was not at all wearing, nor would never imagine. I mean, I remember when influencer campaigns and like content campaigns first found their way into the affiliate space, and it was all new and none of us knew what was going on, and we're like, these are not text links, these are articles. And so it's just been really interesting and fun to watch it change. But how I got into the space was actually by accident. I applied for a job. It was like a rotational apprenticeship with Conversant and Epsilon, who at the time owned CJ. Well, they did not want me at Conversant and Epsilon, but CJ did. So went over and joined the team there. You know, shout out to Kelly Merkel. She hired me out of college, knew nothing. And
First
so,
real job.
Yeah, I got a job. That's what mattered. That's what mattered.
First
I mean, my dad, who I think is watching on the live stream right now, cried when I got a job, and I didn't know whether or not that was complimentary or insulting. And so through CJ, I spent about 3 years there, and it was a great experience. I got to work on some amazing clients across different verticals, from, you know, whether that's taxes and lead gen programs, to enterprise businesses, to, you know, vitamins and supplements, retail, clothing. And it was so fun to learn about all the different pieces and how each business operates so differently. No partnership program is the same. And from there, I wanted to kind of do more. I loved learning about the different verticals, so I wanted to learn more about the other marketing channels and where, you know, my little bubble at CJ fit into the rest of it. And so I was hired on by a client of CJ's, was not my client, and went over to Swanson Health Products and helped stand up their affiliate program, as well as expand their referral program and a few of their other channels. And it was just a really great experience, probably a job beyond my years, but I think that's one of the biggest things I'll say is like, take a risk, go for it. And from there, I was like, okay, I've done retail, I've done these other channels, I need a new challenge. So I was like, let's sell software. So went over to Sprout Social and assisted in launching the revenue partnerships team. And through that, stood up their affiliate program, got that launched and operating, as well as their referral program, which we worked with a lot of consultants. So really taking that affiliate model and applying it to a different type of business. And people would think it's complex, but it actually wasn't wildly crazy difficult. And then kind of also helping them stand up some of their reseller pieces and just building the infrastructure of that team. Well, I got bored of selling software and I liked the variety of the clients. So Team Bespoke was growing and expanding their team. And I had known the founders through networking opportunities and just my time in the industry. And I think that's probably what you hear a lot of, is networking is so important. And they brought me on to come into this role, and I've been there just under a year, and it's been such a great experience. So
yeah, well, Melissa's an amazing woman. You know, you're right about the networking. I think these events are known for networking. Like, we all want to, if you're a brand, you want to talk to publishers. Publishers want to talk to brands, and agencies are in the middle there. But I think we lose sight of like talking to our peers, you know, brands talking to other brands and publishers talking to other publishers, or just getting to know what they're doing and thinking, right? I've seen a lot of conversation up here very similarly, and people are talking about things that I think it will resonate, you know, brand to brand and creator to creator, publisher to publisher. And I think for me, that is really what makes this. I mean, you can build the best tech, you can come up with the neatest new feature or idea, but it takes people to make it happen. And really, I credit everyone in this industry for growing this industry. It's all their hard work and going with the flow and going with the changes. And I think that's what's exciting about this industry, is it's constantly evolving. I mean, I started in '98, and you know, affiliate was not pretty. You know, there was like GeoCities pages with banners all over them. You know, like that was never going to make anybody any money, but people didn't know it, and they were just trying. And it just, people started figuring out what worked, and it evolved. And obviously we all benefit from that. And I think that the career is really just such a big opportunity for all of us right now. And I'm just curious, you know, when you think about like, how did you position yourself for success? Because I mean, getting a job, okay. here's your job, here's your desk, here's your computer, here's what I want you to do. And you're doing it, and other people are doing it. But what's your like mental model? Like, how do you sit there and say, I want to, this isn't, it's my first job, but how am I going to get the next level, right? How do you think about it?
Go ahead.
Okay. So I definitely, I think about, and it took time for me to get there and understand what I needed to do, but I learned from peers throughout and people that I see as mentors, and I saw, there's a few things that I need to always be doing in order to continue to position myself, to always be leveling up and growing. At Sprout, our tagline is always be growing, and I can't stress it enough. It's a great tagline. But really just honing my soft skills and just making sure that, I learned how to work in a partnership space. It's very different than what you'll see even from some of your peers in other marketing. We're creating these direct relationships. So kind of cleaning up those soft skills, learning how to build relationships and all those pieces was the first thing that I worked on. And I watched how my leaders and my managers had done that with their clients and their relationships throughout the business. But then finally, just always being curious and taking on new opportunities. I think I get this all the time. I'm having it a little bit right now, sitting up here with some of the experience in this room and talking about how to grow careers. But imposter syndrome is such an issue, and I think we all just need to kind of get over it and understand that we need to take a chance. I mean, all the people that we probably look up to wouldn't be where they are without taking that chance. So putting myself in a meeting that I maybe didn't belong in. Or, okay, I'm not gonna say I didn't belong because that's imposter syndrome. I belonged there. So putting myself in a meeting where there was something happening that maybe wasn't immediately within my scope. And I found this a lot on the brand side too, of just I didn't know a lot how Amazon worked, how search worked, what the KPIs are, et cetera. And so being able to understand everything that's happening around me and then translating it back to the work that I do is how I continue to stay on top of growing my career, because there's always new opportunities. I'm sure you've seen tons of them here already, but then I can fit them in elsewhere and understand where I fit in that marketing mix, and that kind of does it itself. So don't be afraid to kind of take a risk and put yourself out there, and you'll continue to kind of see that these opportunities are manageable, and then you can continue to grow.
Yeah, I mean, to build off of that, I remember several years ago, I was leaving a job, and I was actually talking to Adam Weiss, who has a consulting firm here now, who's wandering around someplace, and he said, John, you have no idea how much you know. You're going to get someplace else and realize you have so much transferable knowledge, all these experiences you've had, there's a place for them, and you're going to bring something that company needs. And so I think you're spot on with that. I think also it's just being really aware of what's going on around you. At an event like this, Todd, you mentioned it, there are a lot of people here who are your competitors. There are people here who you'd like to work with. Paresh, I actually have known Paresh since I started, and that's because he was with Ice.com, which was a competitor of Blue Nile's at the time. And we just started talking about our businesses. And he wasn't trying, well, maybe he was trying to find out some stuff, but he's just a good person, and we just started talking. We've just stayed connected for 20 years. And there's a lot of individuals here that you might not think either would want to meet you or perhaps wouldn't be willing to share with you anything of value. And I just really ask you to challenge that. Just walking up to somebody who you see as a direct competitor and introducing yourself. You can find those are great relationships. You can find you have commonalities and challenges that you can talk through. And it doesn't have to be something that is necessarily specific to your business or a trade secret or something. But most of the conversations I've had here so far today have been like that. Because you start, again, building these relationships, and there's so much information that's out there. And then as far as being aware, you kind of mentioned it, where we're in this specific space, and at different companies, affiliates, partnerships, influencer kind of fits in a very weird box that doesn't, it's like a Lego with 20 sides or something. And I realized that the more I could understand the other businesses around me, one, the better I could advocate for my own business, and two, it would give me opportunities later to do something else. And ultimately, this is a very, very unique business. Still today, I find myself trying to explain what it is that we do to powers that be at the company I'm at. But ultimately, to be successful, you're going to have to figure out, how does my weird Lego fit into the rest of it? And those are the opportunities where you're going to get these aha moments of, oh, I get it. What I'm doing is, as weird as it might be for the performance marketing world, as you said, this is how I would view this business in that lens. When I've got paid search people talking about marginal return curves, it's well, this business isn't like that. But I can't just stop there. I have to figure out, well, how do I position it? What does that visually look like if I'm going to talk to a CFO or talk to somebody who's responsible for handing out budgets? And so there's lots of opportunities to learn, and those will open up opportunities for you in your career advancement.
Yeah, and I think to kind of synthesize what both of you said, understanding how the other teams in your company, on the marketing side or business development side or sales side, operate and think and sell internally to the CMO or the VP, right? You want to know how they're doing it. Not that you want to copy them, but you got to go, wait, I got to make mine fit in here too. And if the CMO is used to hearing these two teams talk about it this way, and you're off on some other tangent, you can get kind of, I guess, dismissed or not. I think a lot of people feel like they have to really advocate for this channel, especially in the early days when affiliate, seemed very one-dimensional, and it was also a much smaller percentage. And frankly, I mean, in the late 90s, early 2000s, there wasn't a lot of places to even market. I mean, you had banner ads, organic search, email, and affiliate. I mean,
not much of that email was opt-in either.
Yeah. Oh, those are the early days. But, I mean, paid search didn't exist, programmatic didn't exist. There was a lot, comparison shopping was a thing for a while there, but it's interesting how that does that. And so I guess, probably one of the things that really helps in a career is being able to talk about your channel internally and sell it internally, right? Have the CMO's attention. I mean, it's very rewarding to have your very first job and you're actually talking to a C-level executive about things that matter, right? Things that he or she cares about, right? So how did you, besides listening and learning, I mean, what were some of the things that you had to do to kind of make a case, get more attention, get more budget?
Man,
more appreciation.
Looking at Brian over there, Brian and I went through some rounds with the folks at eBay. I'm sure they're still going through some of those. I think it's using the common language. You can't walk in and say, this is different, so just let me be different, because nobody wants to hear that. And so I think it's trying to find commonalities in how the company's looking at the overall business, and how can you start to find traits of partnerships or affiliates that you can connect. And then I think really trying to get specific on, why is this business different than these other businesses? You have $1 to spend, whether it's going to be in paid search, social, whatever the case may be. Why should I give it to you? And what's the return I'll get from that? And how can I be confident I'll get that return? Because at the end of the day, everybody's just trying to hit an ROI, and it's just grossly more complex to do that in this business than it is against Google or a programmatic network that does not care whether you take that $1 back the next day, whether it's $2 the day after that, whether you just shut it off and go away for a couple of weeks. I mean, we're all people here, and ultimately, we're not algorithms or robots.
I always say keywords don't have feelings.
That's
right.
right.
Stop bidding on a keyword, it doesn't get upset. But obviously, if you're a brand and you're working with a publisher and you change the commission or you decide to part ways or whatever happens, I mean, those people cared about your relationship. You were part of their metrics, part of their ultimate, revenue targets and things like that. So is definitely a bit different.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you had to?
So I do want to speak kind of from both a brand perspective and like an agency perspective, because I think both are valuable, but both are slightly different. Because I think on an agency, you know, you need to kind of wow your clients and grow them in order to further your career internally. And one of the best ways to do that, and this is super simple at the agency, and we do it at Team Bespoke, at the beginning of all of our agendas, we ask for general updates on the business, on our client's business. And we push them, and if we know that they're going to be launching on Amazon, you know, we make sure to note that and follow up on it so that we have a better understanding of their entire marketing mix. And through those conversations, you can often glean some of the information that's very important to them, whether that's ROI, maybe it's top line revenue, pending where they're at, and it's always going to be different. But from that point on, you can then tailor your insights, your performance callouts to kind of closely align with like what's hot internally. You know, this is what the CMO is super excited about. This is where a lot of our new revenue is coming from. These are the metrics we're looking at to see that. And you just get that through conversation, and then you can tailor that through, whether that's, you know, they've been talking a lot about acquisition costs internally. Well, hey, maybe we can toss an acquisition cost metric in there and really highlight why our channel is healthy. It is partnership, so ROI is always solid, especially on a CPA model. So then on the brand side of things, like I said before, going to those different meetings, we are in partnerships, and partnerships can make up a lot of the business, but I would say maybe on average, 10 to 20%. So there's always going to be probably a channel or a part of the business that's driving a larger lion's share of revenue. But when just looking at it from a top line or potentially an ROI, you don't necessarily look at the LTV. So many different pieces that go into that. So this is one that I think has been really common with people launching a lot on Amazon, is kind of Amazon's the new thing. You're getting a lot of return, especially right when you launch. It's taking over a lot of it. And so what are the metrics that are being looked at? What is your CMO looking at when they're talking about Amazon or another channel that's performing really well, or email? Is it lifetime value of these customers? Is it cost to acquire these customers? Is it repeat purchases, AOV? You know, going in, looking at Amazon, you know, great, they're always talking about repeat purchasers or wanting people to join the subscribe and save. Well, can I go back and take my partnership metrics and say, hey, I drove this through some of our content commerce initiatives. Our customers that come through these articles purchase just as much as your Amazon customer, are cheaper, and they last longer, and they're our customer because they're direct to consumer. Like, who owns your Amazon customers? Amazon, not you. And so those are just different things, and understanding those pieces and then being able to look at the value and the performance that you've already driven for your channel can really get that buy-in, even if you are 10% less of the revenue. Your customer goes longer, they're more healthy, it's cheaper to acquire. But that's something we see all the time. And it's not something that we necessarily bring up all the time because we don't realize that other conversations are happening with your VPs and CMOs behind closed doors, just as you have your own meetings with them. And they don't realize that. But getting involved can teach you, one, where maybe you can expand your channel to assist in some of those hot topics, but also better prepare yourself to kind of combat those pieces and promote what you're doing, even if it isn't the lion's share of the revenue. And I think that's where people miss. I think I was intimidated by it when I came in places and I only had 10% of the business and someone had 30%. I'm like, okay, like you do you, I guess, like I'm not there. But then when I dove in and I learned what they're looking at, I'm like, wait, okay, great. You're driving all this top line revenue. No one's coming back to buy anything. Like, these are crappy customers, kind of. Like, I drive a better customer. Let's invest more in mine because in a year, I'll make twice the return that you will. So looking at it and being able to tailor and understand those things, I think is so important.
Yeah, I think what you're really talking about is data, and I think we often get caught up in that, you know, I'm supposed to hit this revenue target, so I'm just staring at the revenue number. And, you know, wash, rinse, repeat, go to my top 10 affiliates and keep doing this over and over to try to hit my revenue targets. And the more nuances you can find in your data, like a simple example is suddenly now the initiative is new to file. We want more new customers. That's what we're measuring. It's one of our main KPIs. And your CMO will say, I know what your new to file is as a channel. but you need to know it as a partner, because if you're going to go out and get more new to file, you want to know who are the top 20, 30 partners that drive the most new to file or have the best lifetime value. And so getting into that granularity is really key in being able to speak to it. I always say, all of you should be the smartest person in the room, because measuring paid search and measuring programmatic, there's not as many nuances to it. It's coin-operated machine. You put $1 in and you hope you get 2 or 3 out, right? And a lot of it is run by machines. They're making the decisions and you're overseeing, the work. And what we're doing is, a lot more manual labor, a lot more, what everyone's talking about here is it's partnerships. It really is. So thinking about it that way and understanding your data at a level that maybe other teams don't, you'll sound like the smartest person in the room because you can present really compelling data. But another thing I want to think about is, you probably have all heard this, that most people don't quit a company, they quit a manager, right? When you have a shitty manager, you're not happy in your job, and it maybe even impedes you from being the real success that you could be. So from your perspective, what do you love in a manager, or what makes a great manager?
You want to go, Joey?
I can go first. I think in terms of like management, and I do think that's kind of a valid saying to some extent, there are going to be managers who just want to kind of check in with you, make sure everything's going well. But what I seek in a manager, and I currently have in my manager right now, shout out to Liz in the front row, but somebody who encourages me to go and take opportunities to expand myself. And that's something that I need, and sometimes like a gut check. And I don't like to just get into like endless feedback loops, because I feel like sometimes you always want feedback, but like sometimes feedback is given to just give feedback. And so I think the fine line between making sure that when something needs to be addressed, it's addressed, but it's addressed in a way that promotes change and growth and is not like a reprimand, but also knowing that like maybe when there's no feedback to give, there's a growth opportunity, and bringing that up. And so a manager that's always challenging me to either change my current habits, but like when there's nothing to change, giving me those opportunities to do additional things, whether that's speak on a panel, attend conferences, join sales calls for new clients, because those are all skills that I want to work on more, and they've identified, and they push me to do them even when I don't feel comfortable. But oftentimes I think we do get stuck with managers where it's like no new updates unless something bad is happening, and that is, where I see the issue. And as long as there's someone there who's pushing you to do more and making sure, you're not dropping anything else in that process, is the type of manager that I enjoy. So supportive, I guess. Very straightforward.
Yeah, it certainly helps to have a supportive manager. Yeah. I think for me, over my career, it's probably changed from somebody that I can learn things from to somebody who will give me some latitude to figure things out and make mistakes. And it's something that, you mentioned having employees is like super rewarding, fulfilling. I take it really responsibly from my team, and my team sitting here. I want them to have the latitude to figure things out, and it's much more rewarding to have somebody given a box to work in and make mistakes and be able to come back and say, here's what I did, rather than go through and actually, do the work for them and say, well, this is exactly how you do it. Like you get different results, but particularly in this day and age where we're all expected to do more with less, I think it's super critical that you're in a space where you feel like you have some both latitude and autonomy to go achieve what you're being asked to achieve, and just space to make mistakes.
Yeah, I think for me too, I think having a manager who's not afraid to have someone smarter than them on the team, I really enjoy that. To me, I feel like I just want to make everyone in the company successful and feel good about their job and the work that they're doing, and help them. And whether I have to be critical and say this doesn't look right, this isn't where the way we think about this, or let's rethink this, let's consider this other information. But really, I've seen managers that get intimidated or don't want to see somebody who appears smarter than them, because they almost want to be the one to take all the credit. And I feel like a really great manager is someone who recognizes all the hard work everyone else is doing, because they're there to support that success, right? So I'm looking at the countdown clock, and it's 15 seconds, and there's just so much more to talk about, because like I said, there's just, I wanted to ask what you find valuable in an employees.
We're not going to get to that, Todd.
We're not going to get to that 5 seconds.
In the last 3 seconds, I'll mention that everybody here is in a really amazing, unique opportunity. And if you are on brand or advertiser side, you are getting to work with an incredibly smart, ambitious group of publishers who have incredible business ideas, who look at the world differently than you do. And you can learn about all kinds of things that you didn't know existed or maybe were not interested in a year ago. Conversely, if you're a publisher, you're basically a consultant for a bunch of the biggest brands in the world. And people will listen to you, and you have a point of view, and you have experience. And I think for me, that was my aha moment in my career, was like, oh my God, I'm constantly learning about so much stuff. And the more I can figure out how to take those learnings, apply them someplace else, it's like a superpower. It's amazing. So I hope everybody's aware of that and realizes that's what's going to help propel your career through the industry.
Hey, but I just realized the only thing happening after this is lunch. So we can take a couple more minutes.
Okay.
Because I do want to say, one thing I think that we miss out on a lot is we know how we're measuring whatever we're doing. Like, I'm a brand, I'm going to work with a publisher, I'm measuring revenue, ROAS, whatever it is, right? You've got to ask them, how are they measuring you? Because sometimes it's different. When you work with content commerce, they might be measuring effective CPC, even though you're paying them on a CPA, or they might be measuring revenue per page view or visit. And if you don't tell them how you measure them, those conversations can be invaluable to figuring out, how do I compare? If you're measuring me on an effective CPC, I don't know how I compare. I might have a better CPA, but my CPC is lower. I want to know that. Having those conversations, that transparency, can really elevate the opportunities.
Yeah, to that point, I think, I sometimes think, and I may be completely off here, but I think sometimes the partnership space gets brought down to kind of almost like an advertiser's world. And that, I think, is really backwards, because not a single advertiser would have a partnership program without partners. I don't know if that feels insane, but sometimes I think the advertisers and stuff will have this, they're the ones being sought after to join the networks and all of these crazy things. Oftentimes they're the ones that are getting invited to different things for sales things, etc. But so key to go and talk to all the publishers, and they're the ones who make all of the advertisers and the agencies look good, and that should never be forgotten. So I don't always work with them in tandem. Exactly, ask them what they need and what they're looking at internally. Don't just always be about, this is my KPI, I need to hit revenue. Well, it's not just about that. You both are a business, it's a partnership. So network and expand and do all of those pieces. And I think that's one thing that I think gets lost sometimes, and it bothers me immensely, is that, they are the ones that are making you the money. Don't feel like it's necessarily the other way around. So that's always something key to keep in mind. And yeah, networking, go meet everybody. I think from all of my time here, I think I know maybe 30 people, and in the past 5 years, same 30 people are here, and all of them have a different title at a different company. So,
So I just happened to see this yesterday, and I screenshotted it. So these are my parting words. 10 things that require zero talent: being on time, making an effort, being high energy, having a positive attitude, being passionate, using good body language, being coachable, doing a little extra, being prepared, and having a strong work ethic, right? And I think we all know that we're capable of all those things, but it's just sometimes, it's that curiosity, it's the relationship building, that's where the talent comes in, right? So I guess it's time for lunch. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, you too.